Arel was a young boy who lived in a fantasy world where everyone received a blessing in the form of a class, bestowed upon them by the goddess. This class determined what they would become when they grew up, and it was revealed to them on their 10th birthday. Today was Arel's big day. Having just turned 10, he was about to be assigned his class. His parents and sister were filled with excitement, imagining all the great possibilities of what kind of special blessing he would receive. Arel, however, seemed uninterested in the entire system. After breakfast, the family hurried to the church, where a priest was assigning classes to the children. One by one, kids stepped up to the altar, and the priest announced their blessings. Some became blacksmiths, others chefs. Arel's sister reminded him that classes were often influenced by one's parents, which meant he was likely to receive something extraordinary. After all, his mother was a sword saint and his father an archmage. When Arel's turn came, everyone whispered with excitement, eager to see what legendary class he would be granted. Even the priest looked thrilled at the thought. But when the priest placed his hand on Arel's forehead, nothing happened. Confused and disheartened, the priest finally told him he had been born without a class. A few days passed, and Arel's parents tried to comfort him, assuring him he never had to worry about work and could always live at home. But Arel explained that he wasn't depressed. He had been practicing swordsmanship since childhood, training tirelessly under his overpowered mother. Although a swordsman's class would have made his journey easier, he believed he could still carve his own path through hard work and skill. His family felt relieved, though Arel soon left to spend some time alone. At the training grounds, he found two boys sparring. Their technique was sloppy, yet the mere blessing of the swordsman class gave them confidence. When Arel told them he had come to practice, they mocked him for being classless. Amused, they invited him to spar, certain he wouldn't stand a chance. Before they began, one of the boys asked whether Arel had divine protection. Unlike classes, everyone was born with a protective blessing that shielded them from harm, though it could still be broken by overwhelming strength. Arel nodded, but added that he didn't need divine protection to deal with the likes of them. Insulted, the boy charged. Arel easily parried the attacks, deflecting every strike. Frustrated, the second boy jumped in, but Arel dodged skillfully. Compared to his mother, their efforts were laughable. In a swift counterattack, he knocked one boy out with a strike from his sword's pommel, while the other tripped and fell. The two cried about unfairness. But a red-haired boy entered the ring and silenced them, saying they would be dead on a real battlefield. He challenged Arel, accusing him of relying solely on his mother's ability and mocking him for being classless. The boy then revealed himself as the son of Captain Evans, leader of the village guard. Bitter that his father's skills were overshadowed by Arel's mother, he vowed to prove which family was superior. The duel began. The red-haired boy attacked aggressively, but Arel's years of practice gave him a solid defense. Their speed amazed the onlookers. Arel noticed, however, that his opponent's anger made him sloppy. Just as he prepared to counter, the boy unleashed a special aerial technique, twin slashes. Arel blocked one, but the second hit his chest and knocked him down. Shocked, he asked what kind of trick it was, and the boy smugly explained that it was a skill only those with a class could learn. Days later, Arel returned to training, determined to master the twin slash. He practiced relentlessly in the forest until, after countless attempts, he finally replicated it. Before he could celebrate, a goblin ambushed him. Without hesitation, Arel struck it down using the very same twin slash he had just learned. Suddenly, a terrifying roar echoed from deeper in the forest. Arel turned to run and warn the village guards, but the cry of a boy made him stop. He rushed toward the sound and found the red-haired rival, bloodied and barely standing against a massive hobgoblin. Arel hesitated, unsure if he could win, but leaving would mean certain death for the boy. Choosing courage, he snuck behind the monster and delivered a devastating twin strike, killing it instantly. The red-haired boy was stunned, not just at the hobgoblin's death, but at the fact that Arel had performed a move thought possible only through a class. Arel gave him holy water and explained that his technique had nothing to do with blessings. With enough practice and understanding, anyone could replicate it. Still unconvinced, the boy demanded another duel. They clashed, both using twin slashes. This time, Arel not only blocked, but added a third strike, knocking the boy down. Furious, the boy stood again, only to be defeated once more by Arel's growing mastery. Arel declared that unlike class-bound skills with limits, his techniques had no ceiling. He could add as many slashes as his strength and training allowed. 5 years passed. Arel, now a skilled swordsman, decided decided to set out for Brescia, the kingdom renowned for its swordsmanship, where both his mother and Captain Evans had once trained. On the road, he traveled with companions, a barbarian and a dual-wielding woman, both determined to improve their skills in Brescia. They constantly bickered, the barbarian in particular showing arrogance and disdain for the woman. Their journey was interrupted when a horde of orcs, led by a massive chieftain, blocked the road. The passengers panicked and begged the barbarian for help, but he abandoned them, declaring he would not risk his life for others. The woman also fled, saying survival was every man for himself. The cart driver grew desperate, wondering if they could escape, but before he could act, Arel calmly stepped off the cart and advanced toward the monsters. The driver shouted at him to run, but Arel ignored him and charged. In a blur of speed, he pierced an orc's heart, then vanished and reappeared among the horde, striking them down one after another with deadly precision. Unfortunately, Arel soon found himself surrounded by a horde of orcs on all sides, leaving him unable to use his dash skill. To the cart driver's surprise, he suddenly unleashed a legendary technique known as the blade dance, spinning around rapidly and cutting down every orc in range at once. The driver was astonished, for the blade dance was said to be a skill exclusive to women of the Sword Princess class. Arel, however, was not bound by such rules. Ignoring conventions, he charged straight at the orc leader, dodged its attack with expert precision, leapt onto its shoulders, and drove his blade deep into its skull, killing it instantly. He calmly returned to the stunned cart driver and told him to continue their journey to Brescia. One of the children asked what class he belonged to, and Arel simply replied that he had none, which left everyone completely shocked. He remembered how 5 years ago, when he first showed his mother the twin blade skill he had replicated, she had thought she was imagining things. But when Arel explained that he was training to copy and master any skill he saw, she had been overjoyed and promised to teach him every ability known to the Sword Princess class. Back in the present, Arel was awakened by the driver, who announced that they had reached Brescia, the famed land of swords. Stepping down from the cart, he saw the bustling town square, crowded with warriors carrying blades at their sides. Curious, Arel asked the driver whether he was an advanced swordsman. At first, the driver laughed and claimed to be only a cart driver, but Arel pressed, noting that only a skilled warrior could have recognized the techniques he had used earlier. Finally, the man admitted that he belonged to the Holy Knights class. It was a strong and noble class, but he had grown bored of constant battles and preferred the peace of pretending to be an ordinary driver. The Holy Knight told Arel that his first step in Brescia should be to join a guild. Without a guild, he would not be able to participate in tournaments, which were the true measure of strength and the primary way swordsmen earned money. Arel replied that money was not his concern. He only wanted to fight the strongest swordsman the kingdom had to offer. The driver cautioned him to beware of corrupt guilds, which could drain a man's spirit, and then took his leave. As Arel moved through the streets, he saw recruiters shouting swordsmen lining up for guilds, and banners advertising the strongest groups. Along the way, he bumped into a persistent blonde girl who immediately tried to rope him into joining her guild. She clung to him desperately, but Arel grew suspicious of her eagerness and refused. The girl kept pestering him, begging again and again. Arel remained unmoved, explaining that he was looking for the strongest guild in the city. Reluctantly, she told him that the Shadowblade Guild currently held the top reputation, boasting 8 high-class swordsmen. Arel asked for directions and went to seek it out. At the Shadowblade reception hall, he found a long line of eager swordsmen waiting to take the trial. Excited, he imagined the powerful warriors he might face. But when his turn came, the receptionist laughed at him for being classless and declared that only advanced swordsmen could apply. Arel insisted he could pass any trial, but she refused to register him. Disheartened, he turned to leave. As he walked out, he saw 3 ranked swordsmen entering the hall and being treated like celebrities. He didn't care for the theatrics, but one by one, he tried his luck with other guilds, only to be rejected everywhere for lacking a class. Exhausted, he finally remembered the letter his mother had given him, instructing him to find her old guild. He wondered if she had foreseen this difficulty, but felt grateful for her foresight. Before he could open the letter, the blonde girl appeared again, still begging him to join her guild, even as charity. Pointing to a grand but decaying guild house, she claimed it as her own. This surprised Arel, and the girl explained explained that her guild, Dragonfang, had once been the strongest in the nation, but had since fallen into ruin. She dreamed of restoring it to glory. The name struck a chord in Arel's memory. His mother had once told him of her own guild master, a dual-wielding swordsman who had founded Dragonfang and named it after his signature move. Checking the letter, Arel confirmed that this was indeed the guild his mother had spoken of. Deciding to give it a chance, he followed her inside. To his disappointment, he found only an old, drunken, one-armed man lying on a couch. The man dismissed Arel, saying the guild was finished, and walked off. The blonde explained that he was her father, once the second-best swordsman in the city, but crippled and broken since losing his arm. Arel, however, surprised her by declaring that he still wished to join. Overjoyed, she quickly drew up an agreement, which Arel signed, but left the class column blank. Startled, the girl asked why, and he replied simply that he had no class. Outraged, she drew her sword, furious that she had mistaken him for an advanced swordsman. Before the argument escalated further, the door opened, and a striking, red-haired beauty named Ray entered the room. The blonde rushed to her, complaining that Arel had deceived her. Ray's eyes fixed on him. She recognized him instantly and declared that she never thought she'd see him again. Arel, confused, asked how she knew him. Ray revealed that they had grown up in the same village and trained together. At last, he realized the truth. The red-haired boy he had fought so many times in the past was, in fact, a girl. The blonde, wide-eyed, asked if this was really the classless boy who had once defeated Ray, a story she had always thought was just a myth. Ray, still stung by that old defeat, immediately challenged him to a duel. The match began. Ray launched a twin slash, confident in her strength. Arel tried to counter, but to his surprise, her blows overpowered him, slamming into his chest. She revealed that she had the power swordsman class, which allowed her to wield a blade 5 times heavier than a normal sword, giving her devastating power with each strike. Arel was impressed that she retained such speed despite the heavier weapon, but his own speed still outmatched hers. He created after-images to distract her, striking from behind while she swung at illusion. Shocked, she realized he was using techniques that only the most advanced swordsmen were said to know. Even so, Arel saw that she was too durable to defeat with simple attacks. As Ray attempted to finish the fight with her immense strength, Arel countered with his mother's signature technique, forcing her to her knees and ending the duel. The blonde's attitude shifted completely, and she welcomed him into the guild, admitting that Dragonfang was deep in debt. To recover, they would need to enter tournaments, fighting as a 3-person team against guilds with 5 members each. Arel, however, was thrilled at the challenge. The thought of facing stronger opponents filled him with excitement, and he eagerly looked forward to honing his skills even further. But that was where the story ended for now.